Hey there, I'm Tracy speaker, author, coach, and head cheerleader for anybody trying to play bigger. Speaking of playing bigger, I'm super excited about today's episode because we're going to be talking to the incredible June Miller about shifting out loud. So I'm going to give you a little tee out. June Miller is a seasoned intuitive guide who's been deeply involved in the personal development space her entire adult life. Committed to helping others see themselves and their contribution to the world, she works with people of all ages to help them process trauma and recover their innocence. Ooh, I want to unpack that. She's also the founder of Raising the World Inc., a nonprofit working with Indigenous communities, as well as the owner director of Spirit on the Water, a healing retreat center in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Oh my gosh, there's so much to talk to you about, my friend, but I really want people to feel like they're sitting on a porch listening in. So let's start with that. Tell me where you are sitting for our time together today.
Oh my God. Okay, so today I'm in upstate New York. I'm in a beautiful little part of the world near Hudson Valley. And the house that I'm in has the most beautiful gardens. The people that lived here before me really did it right. And I'm sitting amongst flowers and birds and cats, and there's love in the air. I don't know. What can I say?
Wow. There's always love in the air when you're in the room. I love that about you because we met. I was trying to think, June, it was 17 years ago ish.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
I know. And when I was thinking about this podcast, Shifting Out Loud, no doubt you're near the top of the list of people that have shifted out loud. So I'm excited about just having this conversation with you because I will say this: when we met, there was a huge shift for me happening, and I feel like you were a big part of that. And as I look back, there's always been these times where I'm like, wonder what June would think, and what's been so great about that. So thank you for that. But tell them a little bit about where we met because that's where you're typically sitting.
Oh gosh, well, I lived most of my life in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I started out living there just with my husband and having a son to go to school and just do family life. It turned into, life unfolds, and as it did, the things changed. Kids go to college, and husbands sometimes get ill and have to. I had to leave island to be able to handle what I needed to for him. And, speaking of going big, I mean, a part of me going big was when the person who I loved the most got sick, and I was kind of forced into that arena of, look, you have this beautiful life. If you want to keep it, step the fuck up. So,
Wow.
when I read that your whole premise for your podcast was so beautiful about, that stepping up, the place where we've learned to show up. I did that in the wake of trauma, and at the same time, with a lot of love in my heart, because I don't know, I've always taken a lot of risk, and I've always ended up in some situations that people would shake their head and think, "Oh, June, what have you done now?" But at the end of the day, I can say that whether it's the Virgin Islands or right upstate New York, we take ourselves everywhere we go, you know? And so, love isn't something that just exists in a room and you walk into the room and therefore you feel it, you know? You are the room. You know, your heart is home. And I think what we're all longing for, like, how do I find home? How do I find my way home? And, for some people, going big is required. It's just who we are. We can't not.
That definitely lands. And there's a book that Dr. Jill Bolte wrote. Have you ever read that? My Stroke of Insight.
No.
In the book, she talks. There's a line, and it's written on my computer. You're responsible for the energy you bring into the room. And so when you say that so casually, like there is an intention around, every time you have an interaction. I took a few minutes to set my intention with you. I want to be totally present. I want to make sure that the world gets a lot of June in our little time here together because it's been had such an impact on my life. So I'm with you. I do think you're very intentional. So when did that start for you?
Whew, gosh, I think I came out kicking and screaming. I mean, it was hard, I think, for my family. I was one of those kids who just did whatever I wanted when I wanted, and you couldn't tell me no. So I ended up, in and out of a lot of like dangerous kind of situations and in trouble. And you know, one of the one of the most important things that ever happened to me was when you know, I had grown up feeling like something was wrong with me because I was always in trouble because I was different. I processed differently, and I also had invisible friends, and I mean things that in the 60s when I grew up, the 50s, 60s, that wasn't so spoken about. Like here, everybody, like we're really familiar with the spirit world now. We've even taken, I think, don't get me wrong, I'm okay with it, but there was a lot of woo woo factor in the beginning. Like, you have to like be spiritual, you have to be saintly, you have to like, burn incense, and you have to, there's all these requirements. And what's happening now is I think personal development has taken on a role that is um, aligned with spirituality, but it's not just about the spirit world. It really is about the relational thing between you and the material world and your relationship to the spirit world. And I think one of the biggest things that influences that is your capacity to listen.
Mm,
Um, so, not just for each other, but start to listen for universe. Start to listen for guidance from something that's bigger than you. It's a connection. So when you talked about walking in the room with the energy, it's really that you show up, period. And when you're aligned with right thinking, when you're moving through the world with a sense of openness, you're able to have real intimate relationships that are very clean and yet very progressive. It's that we are collectively wanting each other to get what they want.
mm.
No,
Listen, and that I think is the piece I want to make sure everybody gets, which is when we are playing bigger or when we're listening to that, we're influencing everybody else around us. And this is not, we're creating our own ecosystems, if you will. But I'm going to go back to what you said. You said that you have to listen to that, to that voice, or you have to be open to that. How do people start to get better at that?
wow, okay, awareness. It just starts with the awareness that maybe there's something that you haven't that's been that's been hidden, something that you haven't like a muscle, right? We're so used to looking with our eyes, hearing with our ears. We don't often put a lot of attention on the inner senses, our inner knowing, our inner hearing, our inner wisdom. That time when you think, "Oh, that was a cool quinky dink," when the phone rang and you knew who it was before you picked it up, even though you haven't heard from them in, I don't know, months or years. That little aha, as you start to put your attention on it and you start to do things that kind of allow you to separate what you're feeling versus what you're seeing versus what you're hearing versus what you're sensing. And you start to recognize that there is something already innate in you that is aligned with a way of listening that you just haven't maybe given enough credit to. And you start small, you know, that little thing that says, get up and run. And you're like, I'm not a runner. And it says, yeah, but today you want to run. Get up and fucking run. And you're like, I don't even have any running shoes. Shut up, put your shoes on, go run. And then just because you followed that inner voice as you're turning the corner, all of a sudden you literally run into the person who you've been needing to meet because therefore you can get to the next level that you've been, that your intention is set. So, it's the listening, not just from some weird kind of airy way that is, "Ooh," but more listening in that what wants to happen here? How is it that when I'm present with a moment and I'm interacting with that moment in presence, that whatever I need at that moment is given to me? So my curiosity is not in what can I get, but how can I show up in a way that what I'm called to is the most natural direction I'm going in?
There's a lot of people listening that I know exactly what you're talking about, but they won't actually act on that feeling. Why do you think we don't trust that? And what do you think we could do to start to trust that a little bit more? Because I'm with you. Like I have a
Yeah.
tendency to go through a lot of open doors. I'm super curious in that way, but there are times when I haven't, and you and I have talked about that before. But and there's times when I have. So do you have anything that you could kind of
Yeah.
like a practice? What is it?
Okay. So this is what I think. I think basically at the core of us, we have that little person who grew up in the life that we grew up in with those experiences. We have our secrets. We have our unresolved emotions. We have a huge array of words that we've created to make meaning out of what happened, that we used those simple sentences to make sense of something so complicated when we were very young and didn't even have complex reasoning, at our fingertips. We didn't know. And so I think what we're doing now is living out of a lot of decisions that we made when we were really young, when we weren't safe, when we did need to hide to protect ourselves, when it really was about survival. So as you start to move into a place of safety and you start recognizing that, hold on, I created my reality and it's not so bad. Okay, maybe we could get better here. Let's turn it up, but it's not so bad. And you start seeing that I'm not that little person anymore, but I do have that little person still in here trying to, have a seat at the table. She wants a voice, like he wants a voice. He's angry, he's scared, he doesn't know. And he doesn't know because he hasn't trusted himself yet to come out from hiding. So part of it is just like people like me that are just going, come here, little girl. No. I mean, you gotta have fun with it. But as somebody who's a really, I think personally, really good guides and facilitators, we can't talk anybody into doing their work. You're either gonna do it or you won't.
Yep.
So, it's great to say, oh, let's baby you into it. But anybody that I know that got anywhere just finally said, okay, screw it. I know what I've got if I stay where I'm at. I think I'll take a risk and jump. I think I'll just put myself out there. I'll just turn the notch just a little bit and I don't know, listen to a podcast I might not normally listen to, or, walk into a room that I might not normally ever walk into, but walk into it like I fucking own it, just, you know, there's there's a sense of self that we're longing for, and we're not going to find it in the outer world, but that freedom to be who you are gives us what we need to show up. It's when we apologize for who we are. And the little kid in us is constantly in regret or in shame, like, oh, I got in trouble. I shouldn't have done that. So, that intimate connection that we're looking for in presence with the moment with each other, in order to reach that, it's very helpful to let go of any area in which we have shame. I wish I would have. I wish I wouldn't have. And so, personal work sometimes is scary because people think, oh God, I'm such a bad person. If I start doing this, my shadow is going to all come out. They're all going to figure out I'm really a fraud. I'm like, I'm really not good enough. But the truth is, that's true for a lot of people who are holding on to all of the places that they feel bad about themselves. So I'm,
That's common, right? I mean, I experienced that. I have it. Most of us do.
me
I'm trying
too.
to think, do I know anybody that doesn't?
No.
The soft spots,
Yeah.
if you will. But you said something interesting. When we first met, so I came to the Virgin Islands to write a book. I was in a book writing school. I'll dial you back. I don't know if you remember this, and I just remember you walked up to me in the room and you had, I just knew you had this energy. There was something, and you kind of looked me in the eye and said something like, "You're meant for big things." And I
Wow.
just remember thinking, "Who is she?" I'm just trying to write a book, and, I didn't experience you doing that to everyone, so you made me curious, and so that was the invitation, and I almost called this podcast "The Invitation." I
Mm,
think that we are being invited to play bigger in a lot of ways, but we just decline the invitation. We decide, "Oh, I'm not sure what that was," or we're afraid of it. But I end up in your house in the most beautiful setting, quite frankly, I've ever been in someone's home, by the way.
well,
So, I mean, what you have created there to describe it, I'll let you describe it for the listeners because it's pretty spectacular.
Um, okay, Spirit on the Water is just a space that was created out of love, and a need for people to come and connect to source, connect to themselves, and connect with each other. And what happened was what started out as a beautiful home to raise my son in, which was a small 2 bedroom. Bit by bit, every time I would get any time or any resources, I would put it all back into creating an environment that we could all spend time in and be ourselves. So it's I got in a lot of trouble. I did things that I shouldn't have, and I had to, I didn't ask for permits and did stuff that I had to go back and say, "Oops, sorry," but now I have it. So I I basically have a several mini, like a lot of bedrooms, 3 different areas. It's called Spirit on the Water. So anybody can go to spiritonthewater.com to know more, but it's a healing center. It's a place where creativity abounds. There is space for presence, but also space for crying, space for laughing, space for playing the guitar, swimming in the ocean, swimming in a infinity pool and all that good stuff. But, there's a lot of beautiful places in the world. What makes this place is really the energy in the land. I always knew it, but I thought, oh yeah, June, you can't. So it sounds so pretentious to say you have a vortex. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, how is that going to land for people? Because it's so intangible. But when my husband got sick, I work a lot in the rainforest. I work with a lot of tribes because I like to take people to do plant medicine ceremonies in the rainforest. And so I've developed over many years these very significant, very hearty relationships. And this one shaman, I flew him to St. Thomas straight out of the jungle because I wanted him to heal Ed. And for all we know, it's why he declined slowly with his Alzheimer's. But this particular shaman one morning said to me, when I let him know, I think I'll have to sell the house because it's just big now. It's too little too big for me to keep up with by myself with Ed declining. And he said, "You're not going anywhere." He said, "This is a healing house. People will come here ill and they will leave well and they won't know why.
Mm.
You have to make it bigger." And I did.
Wow.
So, I mean, in the midst of all the turmoil and the craziness and the chaos where anybody else would have said, okay, there's a lot of craziness going on. I need to simplify and I need to make this easy. Instead, I just went bigger. So talk about going big. It's that place where you just say, fuck, what's the worst that could happen? And, the worst that could happen was also the best that could happen. Like, it was kinda like it was a double-edged sword. So I got to pick. I get to create the meaning making. So rather than think, "Okay, the worst that could happen," I'm like, "Wait a minute. The worst that could happen is that we have a lot of fun. I do what I love to do, which is transform anything. Give me a people, give me places, give me a friggin' anything. I'm gonna help transform it." And, I mean, I made me out of nothing, I got to know myself because somebody actually said to me when I was, I'm gonna say 19 and on a bus, and having been through a hard, few years, he said to me, "You are not abnormal. You're extraordinary."
Mm.
And that was strange for me because I had been treated medically throughout my high school years as though something was wrong with me, whether it was abnormally hyperactive. They didn't have ADHD at the time in the early 70s, or I was borderline this or borderline that. And here was a guy saying, "No, no, no, you're not abnormal." And my head just had to I mean, I'll never forget it. It was just literally, we were sitting on a bus and I was riding next to this man and we telling each other our stories. And he said, "No, no, you're extraordinary." He said, "You could use the energy that you have, the affinity that you have with energy." Because I was telling him how I see things. I've always just seen things. And um, I thought everybody did. But in fact, oops. But you learn when to tell people, but you have so often that the part of being you is understanding that we're a whole people. We are not just made up of what can do and who we are in a moment. We are a combination of every thought we've ever thought, and every decision we've ever made. And so with that, we have a responsibility to create a reality in which we fit rather than trying to fit into a reality in which we think we don't. And the day that this man said, "You are not abnormal, you're extraordinary," something clicked. And I thought, well, wow, a lot of people got it wrong.
Nice.
And maybe it's okay. What if I just got better at being me instead of tried so hard to not be me?
So
And
that's the big first shift for you right there, right?
that was a big one. That was a big one. That was a really big one. It took a while. It wasn't like all of a sudden, "Okay, great. Now I'm gonna, master this shit." I still had to have ex-husbands. I still ended up in situations where I literally got beat up, like broken nose and all kinds of stuff. I had to understand how I was creating all of it, but it was coming from that place of scarcity. The part of me that felt not good enough was going to enroll somebody to love me in a way in which they could prove to me that I wasn't good enough.
Mm.
And
Oh,
so we don't realize the way that we create our reality.
wow.
And so that's what I love to do is to help people get down to the core. That's where real healing helps. When you can get to the core of your decision making and recognize what you decided then that's no longer true for you now. Because we want to emerge as human beings with a personality, with a name, with a history. We want to emerge past and through all the conditioning so that we can find out, who the heck am I anyway? Like, what is true for me? Not because you projected that or because my mother projected that or because it's conditioning around how much a person can really earn is over there or, what no, what's true for me. And, it's kind of like we have to let go. And at the same time, we're always fighting to hold on. So it's the scarcity consciousness that if we don't hold on for what we've got, shit, we might have nothing.
Mhm.
And so the scarcity consciousness itself of holding on keeps us from having everything. Abundance is a state of mind, and that is true. I was raised in, we had beautiful life growing up, although it was, used toys, and we lived in a trailer, and we lived in base housing, and we did all the things that we did to meet the survival, just thing, and then a little bit more. But, I learned early on that if I'm creating my reality, and we all are, then why the hell am I gonna go and live somewhere just because it's expensive to live there? You can't live there. Guess what? You're gonna create however much you need to make wherever it is that you decide to live when you get that you're the one creating it, you know? So
You know,
everything begins in your mind, and that's where you go to heal, and that's where you go to come from abundance. That's where you go to let go, you know? There really is a relationship between what's going on in our lives and what's going on in our bodies, and that's a whole bigger conversation. Maybe we can have a podcast just on that.
I want
But
to. I definitely want to because where you're headed and what you're talking about, I want to talk about. And I would also say just this idea of you have everything you have because of the thoughts you think, because of the, rhythms you're in, the ruts you're in, whatever it is. I think that's new to people. And I've said many times, I'll probably say it on every podcast. I could not get out of bed in the morning if I thought everything was already decided. Like I am actively co-creating my life and my experience. And once you know that, or once you feel that, then there's this restlessness that I struggle with because I'm like, am I doing enough? Am I doing the right thing? So then I start judging it. And so for me, that's where I am right now. I'm trying to not judge it. I'm trying to just stay in the flow. I'm trying to just stay open to it. You and I have had many conversations about the plants, and I'm going to do it. I want to do it. Maybe we'll do some kind of I don't know what we'll do about it.
yeah, I'm taking you to the rainforest, kid.
I,
That's all there is to it.
I want to go to the rainforest, but it scares the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie. And
Understandable, and it should. You should have reference because this is a very serious business. I know we weren't planning to talk about this kind of subject exactly, but I will say that psychedelics is becoming a household name. And, we are made up of body, mind, spirit, and heart. And psychedelics speak to one piece of us, the spirit based piece. And there have been studies after study after study after study of people getting real value from PTSD to, just people who have gone through tremendous shocks and hardships, who are finding their way back to themselves, who are finding their voice, who are actually just seeing their relationship to the world in different ways because of some of the help that's available that's just growing out of the ground. You just have to know what to do with it and how to, you know, uh, one of the most important reasons I even want to bring this up because I hadn't planned on it, but as long as we're talking about it, the need for facilitation, and I say that because there is I've been doing this for a long time. And one of the things that's made it so effective is knowing how to do it safely. And come on, we all were in high school when somebody said, "Hey, let's go. There's a field," and before you know it, you're eating mushrooms and cracking your ass, just laughing all night. The day has come though where we progress to understand the medicinal values, both in mental health and in physical health, and using some of the substances that are becoming available. And thank goodness that it's becoming legal and it's becoming accepted. And I think that we should be able to expand our own awareness to what's in front of us. And again, it might mean looking at basic beliefs that you have in order to move forward, because this takes us back to the very beginning of the conversation that we started with today, and that has to do with listening. We listen from different points of view. We listen through our filters. Some people listen for God, some people listen for the universe, some people listen to a flower, you know. But listening for guidance is a way of saying, I am interacting with something bigger than me that can help me get more of where I want to go. It's not just, I want what I want and I want it now, and this is my way. This is not coming out of control. It's coming out of place of presence that only in that presence can the listening occur.
But most people don't trust that, June. Most people want to listen to somebody else on TV, or they want to listen to somebody else that's a politician or somebody, right? Like they're looking to someone else to normalize that. And what you're talking about requires radical listening. It's that it's, not filtering that. And you said it beautifully. I just want to say it differently so that I get it better. You're
Okay.
saying listening for the purpose of what's there for you only, not what's there for the masses, what's there for me. And that kind of presence, you said, in high school, people were in the field. I didn't do any of that in high school. I mean, I didn't even like drink until I was in my early 40s. And because being altered just scared me in any way. I am making up for that drinking thing now, but yeah, that idea of being that out of control. And the way you describe it to me, though, is that it's actually not being out of control. It's being the filter is keeping me from having that knowing. So it's just kind of adjusting that. I don't know. That sounded a little bit more
Well,
powerful the way you said it.
the thing is, what we're all being asked to do here is trust the universe. We keep thinking that intelligence is just something that you gather when you gather enough knowledge. But in fact, there is an intelligence in a tree, you know? And some trees in some areas know that when they're dying, or they have a sister that's dying, or they have a neighbor tree that's dying, the roots will go through the earth and feed the one that's dying. There's a natural tendency that we have to take care of each other. And what's happened is people don't know their contribution to the world, so they're not giving it. And the thing that will actually, I think, help us to eventually reach a tipping point with a conscious awareness is when we all start understanding that to know yourself isn't about you. To know yourself is so that you can find the thing that you came to give back for us. You know, contribution is key. And so when we're in that struggle, who am I? What do I want? Am I good enough? You're in a real struggle. It's inevitable that you have to go through that in order to start to ask the questions. The curiosity about who I am will also help you look at who you're not. And then it will allow for certain shifts in your life, whether it's a job change, a relationship change, or just friends who fall away, new friends that come together. It's because you require a particular level of conversation as you evolve, right?
Mm, yeah.
So, you know, the
That
listening for a better life starts with having the trust to let go of what's not working in order to move into what is. To be
list
able to trust when the universe says, go and do this. And you're going to be like, ah! And then you take one step and then two steps. But that's why people like me are out here going, yay, because we know that one person at a time would change people. We don't need to stand in a soapbox and like have the masses and be a huge movie star or no. I'm changing people one person at a time. And whether they're little people, because I've written a book for little people, it's actually more for the adult centered child, but it can be read to children. But the idea is that we start to understand this relationship between the wise us who's showing up as an adult and the little us who's still really scared and kind of running the show that keeps us from going big.
yeah.
Because the wise us, we don't even measure big or small. We just are. And there's no stopping us because we are. Not because we're big. We're just ourselves. The better you get at being yourselves, the bigger you show up.
Mm. I'm gonna pause there to make sure we all got that. And that's the best I can tell. One of the best parts about aging is you start to get less attached to what everybody else thinks and more connected to what you think.
Mhm.
It's just unfortunate that it takes so long for us to get that lesson. And I'm sitting here now thinking about that tree example and beating each other. I do feel like I'm playing bigger, not for me, because I don't, because I think I'm too insecure to do it for me. I feel that giving a platform or creating a bigger place for other people. Like I can think of a couple of people that I'm like, gosh,
Yeah.
how can I support them? How can I make this bigger? You're on the list, obviously. How can I make them, create a better platform for them. And so that actually is what keeps me so connected to this work, and it is what gets me excited about doing it for sure.
because you're showing up. See, that's your contribution. This is what you're called to. Then that's why when I said I work it with one person at a time to make a difference, but then that one person goes in and makes a difference for a whole lot more people.
Mm.
So it's like we do that. We help each other up. Somebody helped me up. I wasn't okay. I was born this way, but I mean, I wasn't. I didn't come in um, feeling good enough. I had to work at it. I had to see for myself what's true for me now. You know, and so this is the work you're doing. You've been listening to the universe. That's what called you to this job. That's your contribution.
I wonder what would have happened if I would have gone to the rainforest with you 20 years ago. Years ago. So, yeah, I'm gonna
It's not
go.
too late, Tracy.
I know.
Yeah, I know you are.
I'm circling
Uh,
on it. I'm super curious, and you know this. You said that it's more mainstream. I think it was CBS Sunday Morning, my all-time favorite show, by the way, where they did have former military. They had people that had PTSD, and they were talking about the psychedelics and all that. So I think it is becoming more mainstream, and we're seeing the medicinal, you know, uh, outcomes of that. I think it was Leslie Stahl. I don't know, somebody that like you go, okay.
yeah.
So, but I'm cheering you on because I do know you are helping a lot of people, me included, and I want to promote a couple of things you have going on. You casually mentioned the book that that you have. Let's talk a little bit about that. Tell us the name of that book.
Oh god, okay, so the name of the book is called Juney Moon, The Journey Begins. It's Juney. It's not we're a couple of weeks from push and go, but it's all done and wrapped up. It's just some marketing things that are getting in place and stuff, but, and then we'll start doing the pre-orders, and, it's a book of rhyming stories, and all of them there's 8 of them, and each one is, got a own little twist. So, the twist is to get this is the deal. This is the real fucking deal. We
It,
underestimated these kids. We really did. People underestimated me from a young age. They thought that something was wrong with me when there wasn't anything wrong with me. And so I think with kids, we need to give them the opportunity to go bigger at a young age. So the conversations in these rhyming stories that will get provoked as a result of reading them that's the contribution for me right there. Because if we can get kids asking, so you'll see there is really some really fun stuff in there, but it's really they're just little rhymes, like, you know, I don't know, they're just little rhymes, but each one has its own look, I'll read you a little rhyme. You wanna
right,
hear a really quick one?
do that, of course.
I know I'm not an elephant. I know we might have to edit all this out. Who knows if we have time,
Doesn't
but
matter. Just
I
do
know
it.
I'm not an elephant. But this is the deal. We have to start to think like this. We have to start to think outside of our regular thinking in order to evolve and emerge. But can you imagine for a kid to hear this? I know I'm not an elephant. I know I'm not my mom. I know I'm not my brother John. I know not where I'm from. I must not be my legs, for legs they cannot think. I think I'm not my eyes. So who the heck am I? You can call me by my name. You can call me many things, but who I am is hidden beneath this little frame called my body. Somebody look at me. Is it true you cannot see the part of me I talk about? Yes, I know it's hard to figure out because I am not my mind or my arms or my toes. I am the soul inside whose heart glows with love so fine. I have different parts of me I show at different times. I behave a little differently each time I change my mind. Sometimes I feel like laughing. Sometimes I want to cry. And the times that I don't want to talk, I go inside and hide. Come out wherever you are. I know you are not me. That is what I want to see. There are just so many different ways to be. You can be funny or you can be mean. You can be hiding or you can be seen. It's you who decides which way to be. What I want to know is, are you who you really are?
Wow.
So there are 8 of those, and each one has a different twist. Did you think what I thought? All about the power of thoughts. Have fun chosen one about life purpose. Like, so they all get you thinking. So yeah, so stay tuned. I mean, that's my little creative spurt that I thought I'd put out there with my name on it because the only thing I ever got really, really good at was being me. I didn't go to college. I didn't do a lot of like academic kind of stuff. But all along the way, all I've ever done is this work, and I've worked a lot closely with Wayne Dyer and I worked with a few people back in the '80s in the body, mind, spirit circuit, and gave talks to thousands of people. And what I found now is doing this kind of work one on one with people or in small groups from my little place in upstate New York or my big place in the Virgin Islands. There's nothing I'd rather do. So it's been a privilege for me to be on, I mean, it's an honor for me to be asked to be on your podcast today.
That's right. You said casually, like a couple of big names. You were on some big stages, sister, with Meyer, Marianne Williamson, and all of them, and
Yeah.
masses. And listen, I'm just glad that I've had a front row seat, even though I put myself in the back row a couple of times.
I'm cheering for you. Come on.
No, I'm on the front row now. Yeah, this is this is what it's supposed to be. I am trying to stay in the flow, and you've been such a great coach for me in that, and I'm super, super grateful. And I'm cheering you on because the world needs more June for sure. And you said some things today, as you always do, that I'm going to take, to heart, and I'll get to that rainforest someday soon. So with
Well, for
that,
anybody who wants to contribute to raisingtheworld.com, raisingtheworld.com is a nonprofit. We work with these indigenous communities, and we really make a big difference with their education and things like that. The women, we've started a huge women's movement over there, getting the Sapara tribe to come together and teach women to speak up for themselves, things like that. So anybody who wants to get involved with that, just contact me through raisingtheworld.com. Or
nice.
should I tell you my website just in case
Do
people
it.
want
Do
my
it.
website? Oh God, here we go. www.ohjunenowwhat.com. OHJUNE.
Perfect. Perfectly named. Perfectly named. Listen, my friend, I couldn't love you anymore, and
Uh,
for making a little bit of time for our audience today.
Thank you for the invitation. God blessings, everyone. Yeah.